Humanity does not need smart cities. Humanity needs smarter people to help them organize their life into a much better experience. Now, irrespective of how interesting the concept of a city that performs all the actions for you may sound, there are several questions that one should ask. First of all, everything that is created in a sick society is the result of ignorance, and inevitably will lead to suffering, because ignorance equates suffering in any given situation. Take for example political regimes. All of the political regimes that humanity has seen have been built in ignorance, even if they sound and feel perfect on the paper, right? They all ended up being a disappointment, because ultimately they were built in ignorance. And ignorance means self-servience, right? Serving your own ego, being the slave of your ego. So the point is, you're always going to be to the detriment of everyone else. So everything else, well, let's see. Religion, well, just another form that appeared under ignorance. Because in ignorance, you do not know who you are, you do not want to know who you are. And so you will always seek something beyond you to simply represent you. Or, for a narcissistic mind, in case of religion, well, the God portrayed by a religion is nothing else than their superior version, or technically how they would want themselves to be, right? Because the narcissist can't accept anyone or anything being more perfect than them. So the only such accepted thing would be a greater version than them. And since society has been ruled by, well, patriarchy, it's obvious that the monotheist God, right, a monotheist religion would have a God, right, who would always happen to be a male. Because male energy is about rigidity and control. Female energy doesn't have much of a shape. It seeks a shape. And the point is, it is also not so rigid in the lack of a shape. So the point is, feminine energy is much harder to predict. That is why it's always been a problem to control. Because if you cannot predict something, you cannot control it, right? When it comes to technology, technology is nothing else than a tool. Whether you make use of the tool for good or for bad, or you simply don't use it at all, that is your personal choice. That is everyone's choice with regards to any tool. But when it comes to our gadgets and the such being used against us each and every day with information and knowledge taken from us, right? And exploited and, put for sale for huge money just because we have these devices that simply mine that data about us. Well, if such small tools are used for that, imagine what a so-called smart city would be about, right? Imagine how much radiation such a city would require, because you need a lot of communication in between the machines in there. See, the people who rule the world are afraid of love because when people are united, they are hard to bring down, right? Love creates a world they cannot control. As you can see, many of these big companies are ditching people because they're afraid of people, right? And they're afraid of people for two reasons. If you suck, you don't have experience, well, you're a problem. You are not wanted in some places because, well, you don't have experience. Even if you can't get experience otherwise by working, but well, in my country especially, you will find this quite a lot, that people won't hire you because, well, you don't have experience. Everyone wants at least 3x, 4, 5, y, z years of experience, but where to get them as a beginner if no one wants you? And then, when you're too good, right, they are afraid of you because you may want a big salary. Obviously, in a sick society, you're always going to work for the minimum wage because, well, there is always a so-called shortage of money. Even if money is being printed every day, but the point is there is always a shortage of money. So, in a sick society, the idea is humans must be exploited. But in a sick society, companies don't want you, right? Many companies are switching now to AI. They have said that, science has built the first cyber nurses, technically nurses with human faces that will in time replace the nurses in hospitals, right? Because obviously you don't want such people. In the pandemic, a lot of people have been bribed and, they now serve the system because, well, they have taken money and now they are liable, so they have to keep up with the game. Else they lose everything. And most likely they will end up with, judicial repercussions. So the point is, humans are, well, liable to mistakes just like machines, but humans are culpable. You can't bribe a machine because if it wasn't programmed to accept bribe, well, it won't accept bribe. A machine doesn't need rest. And, well, there is also another research that said a few professionals are far better than a dozen non-professionals, right? There was this video made with five of the best um, football players against 100 children, and well, the professionals won. But the point is, if you take machines, you need professionals to take care of the machines. But still, you can still win a lot of space. That's what this society is all about. It doesn't want you as a human because, well, you have emotions, you have needs, you can get ill and the such, right? And there is also a big problem. If you come aboard and you work for some people, there is also the trouble that you may leave. Because ultimately, if a sick society's company wants or actually gets you as their worker, there is always the fear that you will leave. A machine once put to work, it will simply work. It doesn't need emotional comfort. It doesn't need, a raise. It doesn't need anything. Just feed it the energy it needs to run and have a few people take care of it and, do the maintenance, and that's kind of it. So, the point about life nowadays, a big problem that I see, especially with our younglings, is the overload of life. We are giving children so much homework from the beginning. We are overloading their brain with information and the such. And still, the Western society is so much into, well, this non-mature aspects, right? Use your mind, use your mind, use your intellect, and that's it. No understanding of deeper dimensions of who we are. Everything about the mind, be a slave of the mind, and that's it. And people from youth, they understand that life has to be only something superficial. Unfortunately, most people don't even get touched by life. That's why most people are simply depressed. They quickly get to an age of 20 or 20 25 years of age, and well, in your mid 20 in your mid 20s your brain finalizes its development, right, with the emotional side being the last one to finalize, right, in growth and well development. So it's in your mid 20s that your brain well finishes developing. But the problem is, by then you've already overloaded it with a lot of nonsense and a lot of useful information as well. But the point is, when people have reached such a level, they believe that they've already experienced so much of life. So then comes this idea that they don't want to experience anymore. Most likely this is known by, the big guys, the big people who, well, uh, let's say, maneuver this world. And, well, the point is, most likely that is all intended. But the problem with everything that is called smart is that it is designed, or it is made by design to do all the actions needed for you. So technically, in order to read to in order to rule people, you need to turn them lazy. We are the laziest generation after all because we have so much technology to do things for us. If everything is done for us, then, well, people will succumb more and more into even further levels of superficiality. And the point is, the more superficial people are, the more superficial life force they will invite in this world. And that's why you have people who don't even know who they are, they just don't even know what they are doing on this planet and such. It's just they do the same one or two things each and every time, and well, that's kind of it. People have to understand that, for example, the woman's body, the quality it has while uh, bearing life, right? Before she gives birth to the child, right? And before she even gets pregnant, the quality of her body dictates what kind of life force she will invite in her body. In a sick society, you'll obviously be bent to conduct self destruction. And, well, by doing this, you lower the quality of your body, so you will invite people who are very superficial, right? Well, life force who will end up being another human who will be superficial by design. So, this is a very good way to control humanity. When it comes to technology, you have so many things that do your work in a much faster way than if you were to do it alone. Back in the times when my parents were my age, let's say, well, the point is, 30, 40 years ago, there wasn't this technology, at least not in my country, and, well, if you wanted to find information on something, you actually had to go to a library and read it. Now you can use machines to simply search for books about certain topics. You can find, online libraries and such, and you can make accounts, right? Even if you have to pay money, obviously technology still helps you a lot. Why? Well, because the information is much, much, much easier to find. Even if you have to pay for it, yes, but even at the library you pay to have a license, right? So there are far more advanced libraries, right? Even per specific fields of study. And one can get access to books they wouldn't get otherwise. And the point is, with technology doing everything for us, it makes us even more complacent, more slaves of our um comfort zone, right? And self-driving cars, for example. What's the joy of driving such a thing? Because, after all, the joy of riding is probably gonna go away if people simply give in to this idea of self-driving cars. After all, if there's a power failure, right? Or electricity is intended to be shut down just because some people want so, well, what you gonna do with your car, right? Or if the AI of your car glitches, or who knows, someone may hijack the AI of your car and have you crash into a tree. This would be an even better way of killing someone if the system doesn't want them, right? And it will probably be much harder to demonstrate, right? So, machines recognizing your voice and performing actions based on your voice, right? Like playing music automatically. Well, that means another distraction. Or finding you a suitable movie based on your mood. Well, that's still another distraction. Driving your car till a certain dimension. Well, let's say it can still be possible. Who knows? But um, in the near future, most likely it will be possible, right? So, any place on this world can be ridden through technology, can be gone to through technology. You just tell your car you want to go to a certain city and it will be done for you. Well, that may sound very tempting, but after all, you're just gonna sit and do nothing. And expect and well, both expecting and also, being carried by the vehicle. Now, the point is, if you don't even have to pay attention to driving, well, what's the point of your life? You're just sitting there believing that machines are your slaves, but you're the slave of machines because you depend on them. And at the same time, well, you don't do anything. So technically, life could be even more and more boring. Or, well, it's nothing else than distractions because you'll also need distractions to go on a certain distance. And now that you don't even need to focus on the driving, well, that's also a problem because you don't focus on driving, you don't focus on this, you don't focus on that. It's technically machines end up ruling your life. So the point is, such a society can only exist if it makes you even more ignorant. Ignorance has thousands of levels, obviously. But the point is, one should seek liberation, not more ignorance. That's why I'd always say, humanity needs even more humans that are smart, right? Humanity needs smarter humans, more sensitive humans. If we have enough and we raise the awareness of people, such a smart city can exist, more or less. But the point is, smart and aware people, they do not need smart cities. Because the point is, you don't want a machine to be 10 times better than you. Your brain is, anyways, thousands of times better than any machine we will ever create. But the point is, if you want to simply succumb and, well, give up your intellect, your intuition, and literally anything that is human in you, just to experience a life in which you'll end up doing nothing and achieving nothing, because if machines do everything for you, well then what's your achievement, right? But it's exactly like in superficial games. There are superficial games who appear, and then there's that bunch of people who say, well, I'm playing this game so I'm a gamer. Well, that's up to everyone to understand. Hopefully this video was introspective. You are appreciated. Take care. Ferenc on board signing out.